In this video, we're going to cover some exercises, stretches that you can use from an active component, dynamic component that are going to help improve your range of motion, help improve posture, that you can plug into a warm-up routine, be it at the gym, prior to practice, games. You can do it at home on a regular basis. Plug it into your routine as you see fit. It's important to note here, though, if we're going to get into some of these exercises, stretches, it's always a benefit to do anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes of some general aerobic-based activity, be it on an elliptical, a treadmill, a bike, rower, go for an easy jog, do some bodyweight calisthenics, elevate the heart rate, get a little bit of sweat, get the blood pumping through the muscles, get the joints well lubricated. Our body's going to be a lot more receptive to this type of work. So if you have those means, please take that measure. Your body will greatly appreciate it because you're going to reap more of a benefit from it. That said, we're going to get into some active stretches here. These active stretches tend to have more of a neuromuscular demand on the body. So that is going to help to coordinate our muscles in a way that helps play into posture, but it's going to create a lot more of a stimulus in terms of fascial lengthening. It's going to give our body more of a proprioceptive input that'll help dictate change in the body. Not to say that some of your classical static stretching is invaluable, but more times than not, when we can introduce load to the body, where our muscular system is not only working to actively hold us in postures or positions, and it's also going to help lengthen muscles that are tight. So we get a little bit of what they call reciprocal inhibition working in our favor. So that said, we're going to get into kind of a half kneeling position here. A big area of tightness on a lot of people tends to be the hip flexors as well as the quadriceps. So to initially address those, what we want to make sure is that we are mindful through all these drills of our posture. We don't want to be necessarily overly thinking it, but we want to feel the movement. We want to feel these postures. There's going to be a lot more cerebellar activity that comes with that, and that plays into motor learning, skill development, postural enhancement. So that said, it's important that anytime you go through a warm-up, anytime you go through these stretches, that you're mentally engaged with it. Obviously, think through some of these cues that we're going to offer you through the video. But more importantly, don't get hung up so much on thinking about this stuff as it is feeling it. Feel some of these positions working, the muscles working, and ingrain that, because that's what you want to do. You want to chase the feeling that you're getting from these positions, and that's only going to translate into a better outcome. So to target our hip flexors and some of the fascial tissue on our anterior trunk and the hip, what we're going to do is get in a half kneeling position here. This is principally targeting the rear leg, so in this case my left leg. I don't want to find myself in an anterior tilted position, but I want to think about getting this hip right underneath me. My rib cage, I don't want flaring up. I want to hold that rib cage down. For some of you, this may be challenging enough. That's fine, but we're locked, loaded in this position. If we want to add a little bit more of a dynamic to it, we'll bring the hands up overhead, reinforce better posture. A lot of the coaching cues that we'll offer through this video is, one, reinforce good posture. We want to have our eyesight ahead. We don't want to be necessarily looking down, because that can sometimes cause the spine, our posture, to follow suit. So posture follows the eyes. We want our eyes straight ahead, and we want our spine nice and tall. So a lot of times, good cue here is push the head back, as if there was someone who had their hand on the back of your head. Then you're just pushing back into it. That's going to help reinforce good posture through the neck and the rest of the spine. Put our hands on the top of our head. Now, we can come up into that position, holding it. Don't lose it. Hold that hip underneath you and rotate away. And we'll hold this. for anywhere from 15 to 60 seconds. We'll flip around here so you can see from another angle. Again, push the in this case, the right hip forward. Want to keep those ribs locked down. Hands up overhead. Pull yourself up into position, hold in here. Rotate away. We're helping to improve trunk rotation. We're getting some rotational impact here on the front leg, my left hip. We're also getting a nice blanking effect for the hip flexor, for the quad, and for the fascial tissue through the front of the trunk. From there, we can move into a quad stretch. Typically what I like to use is some sort of bench. If you don't have a bench, you can use a chair, sofa, couch, whatever you have access to. You're going to prop one leg up behind you. From here, same cues apply. We don't want our ribs kicking forward. Tuck them down, hold that hip forward on that rear leg, and then you're going to sink down. Depending on where you get to and feel a pretty intense stretch, we're just going to camp out there. For those of you that are looking for more, you can bring your hands up overhead. Again, holding good posture through the spine, being aware. If we can, we'll come down to the floor. Hold. Another thing to be aware of here is your breathing. So throughout all of these stretches, exercises, we want to make sure that we're breathing into our belly. And as we're doing so, we can use the breath to encourage relaxation of our muscular system and enhance the stretch that we're getting. So again here, get into position. Again, push the hip forward. We don't want to be anteriorly tilted in the pelvis, exaggerating that low back curve. So if you just want to check for yourself where you might be, you can put your hand in your low back. Make sure we have a normal, natural curve there. If you're feeling too much, back it off a little bit. Hold that. That'll greatly enhance the stretch that you're getting through the quad. Again, if you need more, hands up overhead. Then we're up. From there, we're going to target the outward hip, the lateral hip, those rotators. These tend to be tight on a lot of people, especially athletes. So what we're going to get into is basically what they call a pigeon stretch. Now, one modification we'll make to this is to get more stretch into that lateral hip. Rather than having the knee kind of more midline of the body, we're going to bring it across to the opposite hip. So in this case, my right knee is going to be more underneath my left hip. Now, for those of you that find that this is enough of a stretch, that's fine. We can hold here. If you need more, in this case, I'm going to take my left elbow and bring it down to the floor. That's just going to give me more of a stretch into, again, my right hip. So we do that same thing for the left leg now. Again, left knee to the right shoulder. If you want to, you can drop that right elbow down. Here, we'll camp out again. 15, 20. Same thing applies here. We want to hold good spinal posture. We don't want to be too arched. For those that are kind of familiar with the cue of posteriorly tilting the pelvis, we want to kind of get that hip to rock under. For those that are kind of stuck in that anterior tilt that I mentioned earlier, that creates more of a curve in the low back. Trying to emphasize just a little bit of that, find that neutrality. We don't want the low back to round. If we tilt the pelvis too hard posteriorly, then we'll get too much rounding in the low back, which isn't a good thing. we still want to maintain a normal, natural curve in the low back. Great way to hit those hips. Another one that works really well is the rotational plank. This is a video I've also done. It's on the YouTube channel as well. But in this position, we'll get knee at 90 degrees with the hip and 90 degrees with the ankle, and we're going to rotate around to the floor. Again, making sure we hold the ribs up, breathing. We'll get into that hip. You can spin around. Same thing on the other side. Either one of these are great stretches for the hip, the capsule, the rotators. Help open up those areas. Next, to get the groin, the adductors, we're simply going to find an ideal squat position for us. Okay, so from here, keep the hands together. We're going to lower ourselves down. If we need to, we'll push the knees outward. Okay, just to create a little bit of additional stress. We're out, open up those adductors. From here, we'll drive up, maybe about halfway up, thinking about strong legs. Glutes, utilize. We don't want to be collapsed inward. We want to be held out. Knees stacked on top of the ankles. Toes, foot in line with our thigh angle. From here, we'll drop back down and then back up. Back down, back up. We want to make sure that we have our weight distributed equally between the ball of our foot and our heels. So we don't want to be too far forward on the toes, too much weight back on the heels. Driving through that midfoot. For those that want a little bit more, hands above the head. So all the way down, halfway up. There you go. You might want to do anywhere from 5 to 10 of those, but honestly, do as many as you need to feel groove, feel like those hips are opening up and improving that range of motion. From here, we're going to go into some thoracic spine rotation. To get good thoracic spine or mid-back rotation, some will use a quadruped position, hands, knees. You can take one hand, put it on the back of your head, and then rotate it towards the ceiling. This isn't a bad drill, but we could also go to the elbows and perform the same thing, which tends to hit the spine even more. Being aware, keeping those ribs locked down. Make sure that you're pulling yourself into that position. We're not cranking back with the arm at the shoulder. We lift, and then it's a pull through our obliques, through the lat, helping us rotate into that position. If we need some cues there, outside of what I offered there, you want to think about keeping that spine neutral, again, pushing your head back and pulling yourself into that rotation. From there, we can use some bird dogs. Okay? So bird dogs, again, hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. And we just use cross patterns. Now, if that's challenging off the bat, we can just use some single arm reaches to groove the pattern. You can go single leg reaches, groove the pattern, straight back. All the movement happening at either the shoulders or the hips Spine is still. If you need to incorporate an abdominal brace, please do so. We want that intra-abdominal pressure. We've talked about this a number of times and how important it is to sparing the spine and improving not only spine health, but muscular performance. And then we can use the reaches. You can bring in and sweep and back up. And then do the same thing on the opposite side. From there, we can go a little bit more ground-based with some of our hip stretches and hamstring stretches. You can lay here, pull one leg in, and out. Again, here, you notice my cervical spine is being held up. I have a little bit of a chin tuck, okay? My chin isn't protruding to the ceiling, so I'm getting some neck flexor activation, but also my legs are up in the air, creating a lot more abdominal work. So, gotta get this abdominal hollow here. I'm not drawing my stomach in, but I'm bracing out, and I'm lifting from my hips and up, from my, basically from my rectus, the upper portion and the lower portion. That's where I should be feeling it. From here, we can cross body. So bring the knee towards the opposite hip. Get a little bit into the rotators. And then we get the hamstring. Cross body, cross, grab the toe, try to straighten the leg. Grab the toe, straighten the leg. And up. Now, from there, we can get into more of our movement dynamics to help loosen up the hips. This becomes a little bit more preparatory to the training session, the practice. Okay, we're gonna take what we've done so far and just try to build it into some progressive movements. Now, this is where in the past we've integrated in some skip variations. Again, those skip variations, kind of what you see in track and field, A skips, B skips. You know, we might do some different leg swings, supported, lateral, front to back. Again, just creating a little bit more neuromuscular activation, a little bit more proprioceptive awareness to what's going on. You know, we can get into some walks where we take the hip through circumduction forward, hug it in. So we're wrapping the hip out, bringing it in, all the while focusing on our posture, making sure that we're not rounding forward, we're not collapsing back, we're getting good clean movement through the hips. Help open them up, forward, down, and then you could go the same thing backward, where we're opening up backward, and the spine shouldn't be moving at all. Should all be from the hips. Here, outward, back, and so on. So you could use that through distance here. We have about 10 yards of turf that we utilize for some of these more movement-based demonstrations. So feel free to do the same, depending on the space you have available. And then we can get into some lateral shifting. Sometimes you'll see this done with a hurdle, a bar, something that we step under. Basically, we'll step, we'll drop down, step across, and come up. So it's like a single leg down, step across, up, down, step across, up, okay? Working on some single leg support, step, up. Each time, assuming, again, that tall posture, cues that we've been talking about throughout the video, but making sure that as we go through our warm-up that we're thinking about all these things, because we want it to be there when we hit our workout. So we've got to have that mindset throughout. If we don't have it now, it's not always going to be there when we want it to be there during the training session, practice, games, and so on. So plug these in. Hopefully they're of a benefit to you. As always, questions, comments, please leave them below. Thanks for listening, guys. Stay well.